Вы в эфире. game, we had no idea who was going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Just back and forth, which is kind of odd considering, as I mentioned midway through that game, you have peak level 11 team fighting from the side of FPX. Rumble, level 2 equalizer, MF, level 2 bullet time, Rakan with access to his ult. Just so many engage opportunities for these early to mid-game champs, and credit to JDG for dragging it out as long as they did, but also credit to FPX for overcoming a comp that, for all intents and purposes, should have smashed them past the 25-minute mark.
All right, we're into game number 2. Pick a ban. FPX still over on the blue side. They've again gone after the jungle pretty hard with their bans. Olaf and Elise, as well as Zoe, hitting the bench. It's looking like it's pretty much the same thing from JDG as well. I mean, with the last game being so close, I wonder if we might see a lot of the same stuff coming out.
Yeah, so with Rek'Sai banned out, again, as I mentioned, it's Lee Sin all the way down for Tian, probably. Yeah, but these, literally, you've banned out the 3 junglers that can duel him early. Kindred was the pocket pick into it from Kanavi last time, and it does have an okay matchup, as long as you actively avoid him for the early game, and then, you know, kind of pick your fights as you please. Giving away the 2 super highest priority picks is kind of odd again, though, because Aphelios, of course, really solid bot laner, and if you pick something to beat him, you have to hold that champion's hand in the bottom lane. And Ornn, the premium weak side top laner, is just dumb to give away, because this is a team that is, of course, going to leave their top laner on weak side, because he's a substitute. This is his first series in, like, the LPL. They're not going to play around him. Stop giving him the best champion for his playstyle.
Passion's running hot here at the unofficial English broadcast, as it will be Aatrox getting picked up second by FunPlus Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, I do agree. You know, Gimgoon looked pretty good in the early game, but later on, 705 was able to come alive. Are we literally going to be seeing exactly the same game again?
I mean, I'd be happy to see the Rumble again. Maybe less thrilled about the Heal and Conqueror combo, but let's see how that pans out. Of course, we do have the option of taking the Braum here from JDG, as they did before. Countered out the MF pretty damn reliably. And of course, you can then just target out the range support pool that we have seen as an answer to that.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. But wait, no, this time it's going to be Kanavi getting prioritized. That Kindred used before, so presumably the Braum is going to be hitting the bans from FPX as we get into ban phase 2.
Yeah, banning out the Braum could be interesting. The thing about both these AD carries that I really do like is that they're both, you know, not so great with Tahm Kench. So that means no Tahm Kench, which is always a victory for me personally. Just that champion is against my values. But anyway, Nautilus hitting the bench. Braum probably swiftly going to follow. Leona going to skyrocket in terms of priority, and she will have a really good matchup into Rakan, who is the other priority engage support for both of these heavy hitters in the bot lane.
Yeah, we know that both the supports just love to get fights started if and where they can. So Karma has been banned. Will we see the Braum taken away, as Silas is the choice from JDG? One more to go from FunPlus.
Right, my main concern with taking the Braum here is that you can counterpick it with some of the scarier range supports we saw hit the bench previously. If Leona is locked in, it does lose to Braum. It does win out against most other melees, though, so it could be an intriguing series of events here. I do wonder if this Syndra blind pick will come through. Banning out LeBlanc does mean Syndra's a viable option. LeBlanc and Zoe are like the holy trinity alongside Syndra, so with both of those hitting the bench, it does mean Syndra has a pretty free lane against whoever she's picked against.
It's going to ultimately be the Leona, though, trying to hold off on Yagao's mid lane pick, our JDG, until the very last. So FPX, they need to complete their team lineup now. Will they go for that Braum, as you mentioned, or perhaps something else to negate, or maybe even try and match that engaged power in the bottom lane?
Yeah, thinking about it, you could have... Well, we saw a Nami hover, because, hey, there's some disengage, but, yeah, I'm not entirely sold on it. And, yeah, there is my... Well, I wouldn't say favorite support, but I'm pretty happy to see it. And you see LWX immediately swap to Cleanse, because, A, Leona, pretty damn scary, and B, good luck convincing your Blitzcrank to stay in lane with you past about 3 minutes into the game. Yes, okay, that's my favorite champion again, so I'm pretty happy unless he takes Heal and Conqueror again. Unfortunately, judging by the summoners he's currently sat on, that may very well be the case.
All right, so we know from FPX the big adjustment there is going from the engage of the Rakan to the less reliable but perhaps more spectacular Blitzcrank as coming back in. We have got the Mordekaiser taking to the field. That's why JDG were trying to hold off on that pick for so long.
Actually, Mordekaiser has been Zoom's best pick so far this season when he was playing, of course. And I was going to say, JDG yet to lose a game on the Mordekaiser. And then I realized JDG yet to lose a game until 20 minutes ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, they were the only unbeaten team in the entire league, which is quite a thing to hold on to. But still, if they can make it through this series, if they can turn things around here, while they may have lost their first game, the series is still very much up in contention.
Counterfeit. I realize now that the Mordekaiser lock-in means that it's on mid.
Yes, it does. How do you feel about that, Ibris, into that rumble?
It's nice, actually. It's very good, and you can just hold your own there, deny some of that kill pressure that Rumble tends to exert on the squishier mid laners past level 3, level 4, and it does, just kind of rival the wave clear as well. Ornn really does do well into pretty much every melee, especially if he can, pump out those brittle stacks as soon as they're on. And I'm really intrigued to see how this 2v2 in particular starts to be influenced past the level 6 mark.
I think the big concern for me here, though, is with having Ornn in that mid lane, 705 was able to survive and thrive as a substitute top laner, with that Ornn eventually becoming relevant after struggling against Gimgoon early. Is the Mordekaiser going to be able to do the same thing?
So they're essentially very, very similar in that regard. Actually, I remember when Mordekaiser was first reworked, and I was like, oh, he's basically an 80 Aatrox. That was my note, was that you leave him in isolation, he scales into a team fight or split push threat, depending on how you want to play it out. And yeah, I'd say this is trusting in their substitute top laner pretty significantly heading into this for JDG, as we are about to head into the Rift for Game 2 here, Counterfeit.
All right, one more chance for JDG to hold on to that unbeaten record. They may have lost the first game, but the series still very much up for grabs. JDG, massive underdog against the reigning world champions. Let's see what happens now, as JDG were the ones to invade last time round. This time, FunPlus, they're on their own with the Blitzcrank. JDG staying one step ahead of them for now. Will we see the blind hook? No, FPX, they haven't sensed that JDG are just nearby.
Level 1 Blitzcrank invade. There are pings on the bush where JDG were waiting.
Here we go, that's the hook. Lands onto 705, gets away for now. Chris diving into the team. TN trying to get this work done at level 1. Takes the ignite, walks away. FPX's health bar starting to look a little bit unhealthy as Gimgoon has to flash away. LWX, where do you go? The blast cone brings you back into range. Flash forward, and it's first blood again for JDG. This time at 1 minute and 30.
How do you get routed up there by the MF? Flash upwards into the enemy jungle at level 1, okay? Yeah, sure, why not? So, thing with Blitzcrank and Rumble is that their single point abilities of both of them taking Q at level 1 are really, really insanely threatening in certain scenarios. So if you land that hook, beautiful. If you land the Q onto everyone, beautiful. The thing with Leona is that while her Q isn't necessarily as devastating as a hook into your entire team, it's up a lot more. Shield of Daybreak, stun, 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 stun. And JDG, while not necessarily as immediately impactful, definitely win out on the prolonged trades at level 1.
And 705 was the one who ended up getting that kill. The player which we had our worries about in the top lane up against Gimgoon has invested that into an early cloth armor, so be able to do a lot better in this laning phase than they would have been able to otherwise.
Cowardly Mordekaiser start here. Where is your Doran's ring? Where is everything else? But no, that's absolutely fine, honestly. Usually, I like to see people rush out the boots against Aatrox, just because, especially if you play Rumble, as I do, it makes trading against him a lot easier, because you can just run to the side of the chains once you have enough movement speed. You can just get out of those chains immediately from the Aatrox W. But the cloth armor just going to be super, super conservative, and that should allow 705 just to sustain A in the 1v1, and B if Tian does decide to visit the top lane in the near foreseeable future.
We saw Tian being a big part of FunPlus Phoenix managing to get going early, though did drop off as the game went on. Kanavi, has seemingly got a vertical jungling setup once again, so might be able to start building up those Kindred stacks. I think last time round for most of the game, only just managed to get up to 4 stacks. Really wasn't able to get going early. I think has grabbed a scuttler, so at least has gotten started with that first stack.
Speaking of Kanavi, actually, he's very much facilitated by the rest of his team right now. They're drafting around him, they're playing around him.
And we've got the play on to Doiby in the mid lane with Kanavi helping out. Tian
Luma?
is there. Are they going to go for the kill? Flash on the tower. Kanavi only takes a single shot. Tian is there with Chris. Gets the hook onto Yagao. Counter engaged. Doiby is so low. That flame spit is not quite reaching. Double knockup comes through. And JDG pick up kill number 2. We've got LWX coming in from the side, and the Felos is too late to the fight. Yagao is low, does manage to get the hit onto Tian, but I think gives up their life. Engage onto them, but unfortunately LWX has got too much damage. Kanavi's trying to save it.
Loken?
Flash in for Loken. Can they get the last bit of damage? No, denied by a thread.
The itemless flash forward from the Aphelios. It felt like he landed like 8 auto attacks in the span of 2 seconds, and they all did like 10 damage each. That was depressing, but kind of cool to watch regardless. And yeah, really, really good rotation from FPX there. They brought their resources mid slightly sooner than JDG, and even if the Leona got there faster than the Blitzcrank, there wasn't too much she could offer without diving under that tower. Really good play from FPX, and just to touch on my point that I was making leading into that play, JDG putting all their eggs in the Kanavi basket. Live and die by this Kindred. You've like Yagao is the best LeBlanc in the LPL, by the way. Maybe surpassed only by Knight or like inform rookie. So the fact that they're relegating their carry mid laner to a supportive role really shows they're trusting in that jungle lane. Yeah, there's how close Tian and Doinby's health bars were to dropping there.
Oh, I mean, when it gets that close, it's hard to think that it wasn't the right decision, even if ultimately it didn't pay off. Looking at the summoners across the board, I don't think we've even got, apart from the cleanse of LWX and Chris exhaust, all of the other non-smite summoners have been exhausted by that incredibly explosive fight. We are literally 5.5 minutes into this second game. It feels like we're about 15.
The troubling thing for me is that of all the places to gank, Kanavi chooses mid, where A, the Ornn was low on mana, and B, that is the only lane on FPX that still had a flash remaining after the level 1 shenanigans. That's a little bit of a shaky allocation of resources, and well, I mean, if you see a play, why wouldn't you make it? But at the same time, definitely could have used your brain just that little bit more leading into that.
No, you're right. It is a big missed opportunity there for Kanavi with all of those pressure on the shoulders to perform. We have got an early Infernal Drake there for JDG, though, that Kanavi is right next to. Tian is nearby, but it looks like JDG are trying to put down some pressure bottom lane to give Kanavi more room to work with.
Yeah, Kanavi actually going to have the onus on this first Drake, like you saw with him previously, as Lumao's just doing his thing, zoning out people. Leona does historically have a solid matchup into Blitz, as we do have the Ornn ult.
The Forge God comes out crisp, will just avoid, as the escape is good from FunPlus. FPX, a turn from the Infernal Drake. Now we've got Doinby thinking about making their way down. Of course, they've again not got that TP, but this time Yagao doesn't either.
League of missed skill shots, but wait for Lumao to hit a highlight reel worthy Zenith Blade soon. Doinby still not running teleport on the Rumble, but he got a decent enough reset. This time around, not opting for the tier 2 boots rush, which does suggest that he's just going to play out the lane, maybe walk to the neutral objectives with his equalizer every now and again, but otherwise, definitely less of a super roam-centric playstyle, rather just playing the skirmishes around the immediate area in that middle lane.
Yeah, Yagao with that unsealed spellbook sitting on the ignite for the time being, but won't need the TP as it's going to be building up. There we go, the catalyst coming in. So it's starting to build up once again. The on pick getting tankier as we go, but we are in level 6 territory. Those big equalizers, the team fight power of FPX we saw from game 1, still very much a concern.
It's kind of cool actually, because Ornn and like Taric and maybe 1 or 2 other meta tanks that you occasionally see are the only champions that build catalysts in the current meta, and then they rush it and then sit on it because it just gives you so much sustain. And the more you can just sit in that mid lane, the more pressure you're naturally exerting onto an opponent that doesn't have TP.
Yagao goes in hard against Tian, drops down the ignite, but that will be the Infernal Drake across to FPX. Drake's aside, the gold has remained extremely even between the two, despite everything that's happened in the early opening minutes.
That was just weird, actually, because JDG had full control of the Drake area, and then we're like, oh, no, we're cool. We don't really want this anymore. And then just ceded control of that area completely. FPX swooped in with that window of opportunity, a decisive call. And by the time JDG were like, maybe we should reconsider having given them full control of this area back, Drake is gone. Tien's out of the pit. It's a little bit unlucky, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, this is something that came up in the previous game, wasn't it? The JDG gave up Drake's in exchange for vision around Baron, which ultimately didn't turn into too much of anything. It does seem like that's maybe a bit of their decision-making process that needs to be looked at if we do get to see a game number 3. Is just making sure you're at the objectives at the right time with such small windows afforded by FPX.
Definitely could very well see another Ocean Rift as well, which would lend a lot of credence towards this teamfight-centric comp of FPX. Rather than running the Rakan here for the insane engages, though, they've got the Blitz to just try and facilitate some picks. Pretty cool interaction later that you might see is the Blitz hooking the Kindred out of her own ult, which would be pretty interesting indeed. Yeah, Lumao now lingering around the mid lane as he has tended to do so far this series. Need to see the CC chain come through from this mid support duo.
And even if they did, we've got Tian and we've also got the roaming Crisp, of course, dancing around the place looking for the play. But of course, both supports of the Boots of Mobility as Doinby. Do you remember this from the previous game? As they will find themselves the danger bush as Tian be able to hop away. There's the combo forcing out the flash. Nice job there from JDG, even without a Drake left to take.
Fairly beautiful solar flare, yeah, would have tagged with the stun had it been able to connect. Forcing the flash from Lee Sin means no more playmaking for you for the next 5 minutes. Well, still some playmaking, but let's be real, not as impressive. Speaking of playmaking, here's the 1v1 attempted from JDG's top laner substitute.
Look at this 1v1, isn't even close. 7:05, that early Clothfest being turned into the arm guard. Gimgoon just did nothing to them.
All right, you remember how we said that Gimgoon was not the carry top laner of FPX? Well, you're seeing probably why. It gets mechanically outplayed 1v1. Speaking of mechanical outplays, Hook!
Re-engage coming back in from JDG. They want this fight. Equalizer comes down. There's a combo with the bullet time. Kanavi is down very low. Here comes the Lounge of Spite. There's a knock-up trying to get them out of the Lounge of Spite. Lamau will be taken down. It's a trade of kills, though, as Yagao is soaking up the damage in the front side. 7:05 can't get any closer with that mid lane tower still in place.
Lumao is fearless on this Leona, bloodthirstily Zenith blading in on every single opportunity, and it is so refreshing to see. Unafraid to make plays, unafraid to trade his life, unafraid to steamroll through every single summoner of the carries of FPX. And now JDG, despite being kind of behind composition-wise, have the onus on the foreseeable neutral objective fights. Rift Herald should be theirs if they want to go for it. Drake, next time it's up, should be a legitimate point of contention as well. JDG in a pretty damn fantastic position, and it's because Lumao is unafraid to pull the trigger. Also, their top laner is doing pretty well this game. Let's be real. 7:05, shout out to you. You're doing well.
I think 7:05 deserves an enormous amount of credit here. 3 kills, has got the proto belt completed already. We've seen they're destroying Gimgoon when it comes to the 1v1. A big contrast to before. And Loken down the bottom side. When you talk about before when we saw the Rift Herald taking 2 plates, Loken was able to stay down in the bottom lane and get 2 plates by themselves.
Yeah, you can't actually count out Aatrox, though, as my main reservation for the side of JDG, because FPX are still going to legitimately scale into these teamfight-centric split push if they want to. That kind of, they have a lot of flexibility in the depth of their composition, and that is, something that JDG definitely have to be conscious of should this game continue to spiral onwards.
So we've got another reason, as before in game number 1, JDG. There's another major objective coming up, the Mountain Drake, that could push them into the situation as Chris almost gets the across the wall hook. That could have been an almost guaranteed second Drake for FPX. As Yagao says, if you can't catch me, I'll just bring myself. Comes in with a double solar flare hit, and LWX gets blown to pieces. JDG turn the play and get the kill.
That was beautiful highlight reel worthy engage from Lumao there. Exactly what we said JDG needed. Finding the MF yet again, cleanseless on that marksman, meaning she was just lined up to be picked up and knocked back down. Once the Ornn and Leona on top of you, really difficult to shake that as, well, Mountain Drake shakes off the rest of JDG for a little bit. And, oh, it's not going to be the Ocean Drake this time around. Cloud Rift actually going to start to materialize, and we mentioned how influential the ults were on FPX's comp last time. This time around, Call of the Forge God, Lamb's Respite, even thinking about the Solar Flare as well, which is already on disgusting low cooldown, you have a legitimate case for both these teams to want to secure a couple of those Drakes under their belt.
So JDG ahead by 1,500 gold. Sorry, 2,500 gold right now. Ahead with the 2 kills. We still don't have any towers officially put down as we've crossed the 14-minute mark. That Rift Herald still sitting there ready for the taking. JDG, though, they've done a very good job of managing to break through and pick up those tower plates even without it.
Yeah, honestly, genuinely thinking about it, it's a small victory when you play against an early to mid game composition, and you don't really need the Herald as long as you're denying them avenues towards taking it. And part of that is A, because Yagao is almost always pushing in mid, and B, because 705 is actually pressuring out Gimgoon pretty damn hard.
So we've got the Heralds up for the taking. We've got Cloud in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Still the first tower on the board. As we look down the bottom lane, we can see that Loken has got the, not a major advantage, just a little bit more. And the tank has a CS and as well as those tower plates. So building up to be a big damage threat. Last time round, it took them a while, but at least accelerating things now as we're in minute 15.
Good communication that the Lee Sin is probably playing through bot side, so it does open up an avenue towards this Herald for the side of JDG. Speaking of the Herald and the push it will make, though, I do want to point out that JDG have the superior siege, largely because 4 melees on the side of FPX, while the Kindred does go a long way to compensating for the fact that otherwise it's just the Aphelios hitting towers for the side of JDG.
Yeah, that secondary AD carry working very nicely as the Herald is picked up. So where is it going to go? Certainly down the bottom side. FPX would love to be able to get that first tower gold. They're committing in big to try and make it happen. Tien, we can see, has already built their way up, but it doesn't look like the Heralds are going to even be needed. It's a race for the first tower gold. Who's going to get it? I think maybe by a hair FPX grabbed it, but the second tower is going to be threatened now as well.
FPX did grab it thanks to the demolish from Blitzcrank, that hotly contested, insane support champion. I really do miss him, by the way. I did miss him. He's meta now. He's cool. That's my go-to pick if I'm tilted from playing any sort of support. I'm like, all right, I don't want a team to depend on anymore. I'll just do it myself. And then you miss every hook, and it's like, all right, fine, whatever, go next. This is not the champion for me. But Crisp looking pretty damn comfortable on the pick. Speaking of comfortable right now, you do have 705 continuing to spiral, continuing to snowball, continuing to ramp up in terms of relevancy on that Mordekaiser in the 1v1. And once he decides to join these fights, anytime the MF lines up a perfect bullet time, she has to be really conscious of just getting death round and taking out the fight entirely.
Yeah, that death realm is just going to be such a great equalizer, if you pardon the pun, for what FPX are going to be able to do in these team fights. I'm really excited to see what 705 can do, given the opportunity, this strong start for them. Yeah, we had so many questions coming through this series, whether this substitute top laner for Zoom could fill those shoes. At least in this game, they seem to be up to the task, but there's so much more they need to be able to do than just win the lane.
And speaking of top laners, actually, I want to stress that Gimgoon's strength was never about his laning. He is the premium weak side player, best in the world, actually. His GP, beautiful. His tank play, we haven't really seen much because he hasn't got to play in a tank meta for some time. But yeah, I really do respect. LWX had to cancel that. Yeah, that was kind of scary. Not gonna lie.
Yes, I mean, I think JDG just kind of telegraphing there. If you start throwing out careless bullet times, you're going to get CC for days. You're going to get blown to pieces. Have to play out so carefully as Lamau will find more of FPX. Perhaps they were hoping for. Crisp is fishing for that hook, as always, on the Blitzcrank. I don't know if right now if they want to even take it. Kennedy Savoy's getting caught out in return as the Herald has opened up the mid for JDG. That's 2 towers now to 1.
And as I was mentioning prior towards that sequence of plays, just talk about the top laners here. Gimgu never had any member of FPX visit the lane he was in. He's literally just on, let me pick up farm duty, occasionally group with you if you want to go for a team fight. He tried to run interference by himself on the Herald Take His Way, like just kind of delaying that by like 5-10 seconds. It's a sad situation to be in as a top laner, and when you die once, it's really difficult to not get snowballed on. So credit to him for not dying anymore, but it does present like a kind of a vacuum where FPX are actively hemorrhaging gold in whichever lane that Aatrox is sitting in.
Gimguna does at least get some time alone with a top tower to be able to chunk it down a bit, as FPX have brought Crisp up. They've also got Tian in the area, but it looks like ultimately they're not going to go for the play here, even though 705 hasn't got a Zhonya's or anything similar completed to keep them alive if a tower dive does happen.
Yeah, there's a legit possibility of that. No stopwatch, of course, for the Mordekaiser, but he's still pretty bulky at this stage of the game. Able to also just kind of stop any gank in its tracks just by ulting the Blitzcrank or the Lee Sin or really anyone that he wants, because he can 1v1 anyone that he wants. This play would be kind of threatening if the Rumble had Equalizer, but you saw Doinby commit it bot lane to actually clear out the wave and then manually walk top, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, 705 may very well still be under pressure. 1v4.
There's a hook coming in, gets knocked away, drops down the... No, gets taken out before can really do anything. FPX managed to find the way through to equalize on towers, but while that's happening, JDG, they are making plays of their own. They've got 2 members down the bottom side, tier 1 for tier 2, but FunPlus, they've got a push of their own in the top.
Yeah, well, the targets to ult, I do not think the Rumble was the one to take there if you're at like 150 health before entering the Death Realm, but hey, it was a bit of a panic desperation play, and he bought enough time for the rest of his team to really crack open this bot lane. And importantly to note is that with Baron up now, having a pushing bot lane is super, super crucial for just applying map-wide pressure and actually making the enemy team answer you in that bottom half of the map so the rest of your team can make a convincing case for that big neutral objective.
I'm curious to see where 705 goes next now that the bottom side has pretty much been taken care of entirely all the way up to the inhibitor. Vision right now for FunPlus is at least there in some form around the Baron, but Doinby is going to miss that ward in the back of the pit. They may not miss the Mao coming in now, drops on the solar flare. That's the instant flash away as the fights are starting to become more relevant around the Baron pit.
Still not entirely sold on this heel Rumble, by the way. Like, yeah, okay. Kind of cool into Kindred, I guess, but it's not like you were getting actively threatened all that much by Ornn unless you misplay. Speaking of Ornn, he's just being a bulky frontliner, ready and waiting to tank the hook alongside Lu Mao. Yeah, protect your carries. It's all good. Oh, that was... okay. All right. I think the hook would have missed anyway, but all right.
I thought JDG might actually go back in there because, as we can see, Chris is not the happiest on that Blitzcrank when they're the one being engaged on rather than the other way around. But 705 burns both summoners in what must have been a very quick decision to pull back from that fight and ultimately cost 705 their flash.
I mean, I'd be pretty happy there if I was Chris, to be honest, because, yep, that's a feel-good Blitzcrank hook. You're like, all right, maybe I missed the timing, that's unlucky, and then, yep, job done, as you mentioned. Anyway, talking about Crisp again, look at this aggressive vision line being pushed by FPX. They have good vision in their own jungle, they have good vision around that river as well, and that just denies JDG any sort of avenue to fish for a subsequent Leona pick. That being said, Doinby, a pretty attractive target if I'm honest, because hey, no hourglass, no stopwatch, none of that disengage kind of stuff besides the heal, which isn't up yet either. So if you catch the Rumble now, one very, very dead Yordle and a mech if you do want to set up your carries.
I mean, that's what worked so well for JDG before, was finding Doinby and putting them in the ground before they could do too much of anything about it. Right now, yeah, just building purely offensively. We'll see if that ends up changing later on. Of course, with the Cloud Drake up on the field, we have to watch out for these movements through the jungle. Going to be very, very quick for FPX to get onto the Baron if they do suspect some sort of shenanigans, which is exactly what's happening right now.
Something I love, by the way, even though I do miss the Forge Fire Cape, The Frozen Fist just having a lot of damage for the Ornn in terms of magic damage, combined with the Maud, does mean that the Aphelios and Kindred double carry threat do a lot of near true damage with their attacks. Look at this fight though.
Gonna get caught out. That is a Solar Flare just for one, ulting away from the fight. JDG have burned a lot of resources. Yagao backing off for the time being. No, goes in, gets a knock up there.
Oh!
They execute. Doinby gets pulled back in. 705 diving into the team.
For
the time keeps away JDG for the time being, but they've got the numbers advantage. They didn't get the Baron, but we've got a second Cloud Drake coming up mere moments away.
Oh man, we held the Aphelios ult there. No Luna Rush ready. Well, Luna Rush is Diana, sorry. Yeah, no Aphelios ult there to clean up that fight, even though FPX were fairly clumped, so just very respectful play, to be honest. No crazy re-engage from the side of JDG, but they take their fight when they take the next Drake in line as well, pushing it nearly to soul point if they do want to. And FPX, it's a little shaky from here on out for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Loken has been pretty stingy with those Moonlight Vigils, but with the Cloud Drake stacking up, it's kind of going to have a lot more access to them as they are starting to build up gold-wise. You can see ahead on CS has the gold bounty because of what they've been doing so far. It's honestly amazing that Loken hasn't even got an assist as of yet, though.
I mean, I'm also talking about JDG's mixed damage portfolio with the Ornn plus the Maud dishing out significant magic damage. But if you look at Doinby right now, he's got his Void Staff second item completed. He's dealing near true damage on Rumble. And if you're thinking, oh, maybe you should have gone for some more AP, that kind of thing, think about the fact that Rumble, actually, he just has insane, like, not scaling, but base damage, plus the fact that his abilities are all about Magic Pen, Magic Pen, Magic Pen. He's dealing a solid amount. If you can see Loken, who, by the way, doesn't have a cleanse on of his own, inside an Equalizer, though I don't know how you would do it because they actually don't have all that much CC besides a Blitz Hook, that is one very dead Aphelios if the Rumble does get on top of him. I'm still not entirely sold on this heal, by the way. Like, every time I look at it, it distracts me, and like midpoint, and my eyes wander towards the mid lane of FPX, and I'm like, heal Conqueror, and yeah, okay.
We'll absolutely have to have words with Doinby at some point. You know, you can express these emotions next time we're in town. But we've got the reset here from JDG. They're looking to clear out vision. They've done so well at picking off FPX when they can make sure that, you know, FunPlus have to walk in blind. That's what's happening right now, but they're coming in strength. Tian and Chris, as the Baron is started up. It's just a tease, though. This is the entry. There goes the Forge God. Gets the catch onto Chris, who locks themselves in place. Will get pulled back into the arms of 705. Equalizer! There's the wombo combo from FPX. Is it enough? Chris has been taken out. Tian on the backside. Lavish's spike keeps the rest of JDG alive. Yagao and 705 keep up the front. Tian is chased off. LWX hasn't got anyone to help them, but they're toning out the damage. Lamau has to fall back. JDG, they got the kill. Now they just need to make the escape clear. Kanavi goes right into Tian, the 1v1, and they're going to... Are they going with it? They get the last shot in. Here comes Lamau. Here comes the CC, and down goes Tian.
Tian almost with the 1v1 outplay. Kanavi pulling it out, though. Really, really good play coming through from JDG there. Kind of clumsy to start that fight off because you used the Ornn ult, used the Leona ult to catch a Blitzcrank who had no hook, which is not really a champion. Like, sure, okay, why not? So much resource commitment, but it pays off. Credit to LWX for playing that beautifully. He got a very nice bullet time layered on the Equalizer. Plus, he was juggling his auto targets, which meant the MF passive was dealing significant damage. But it wasn't enough to clutch that out. Really good splitting of the fight from JDG. Like, this was a great fight for FPX. A, it was in a choke point with MF Rumble ults, and B, they'd used everything to lock down Blitzcrank. Even Mordekaiser ult, 3 ults for the Blitzcrank. But look at 705 doing work here, drawing the attention of 3 members of FPX, cleaning up 1 on top of that as well. I don't know what Lumao did there, but hey, why not? Let's try for it. That's me when I play support kind of plays, but it works out in the end. Let's be real. Good stuff coming through from JDG and a Baron as a result of that.
I can't believe that that JDG got out of that without losing anyone. Those health bars are so incredibly low. I think it is rare for a team to make a mistake, like in that case, trying to chase down LWX for another kill, but still manage to get away with it without even taking a single death back as payment.
Speaking of getting away, Mordekaiser on are really, really like lumbering juggernauts of champions. They're really slow and clumsy, but once they got on top of you, really, really difficult to peel them off. Because yeah, Mordekaiser just everything applies a slow when he gets his Rylai's plus Leandres. It's all really difficult to deal with once they're in your face, especially if LWX has no cleanse and flash. Fortunately for him, though, he has it now, and Doinby has a stopwatch on top of that, so the FPX carries not in quite as precarious a position as they were 5 minutes ago.
Tisu Lamau going for the play down there. Tian is already so very low, gets knocked up. Navi goes in for the last bit of damage, can't quite find it, but when you talk about trying to get away from JDG, we have got the Cloud Drake coming up for the Cloud Soul. If JDG get hold of it, going to be all the scarier as they lumber towards FPX at quite big speed. That 10% speed boost could make all the difference.
I mean, I love Lumao because yeah, engage supports that can just be X factors for their teams are super cool. That solar flare left a lot to be desired. He connected his E and then decided to solar flare on top of where he was standing and not the people he'd locked down. So it looked more than a little bit clumsy. But as you said, as a result of that pressure exerted, they were able to clean up the Cloud Soul. And whilst it's not as game defining as, say, an Infernal Soul or a Ocean Souls we saw in the previous game, it's still a hefty chunk of damage as you see Engage come through.
Forge God buying the space for JDG as they are going to pressure down on this mid lane inhibitor. FPX are still there and still in strength, but that siege from JDG is good enough. They do get the catch. That's what they were looking for. There's a play for FunPlus. Kanavi blown up. Lamau is off the table. JDG, I don't know if they can get away here. Tian gets to make the kick back in. Will we see the ace? Yagao and 705 left standing for now. 705 trying to draw attention away. They're going to TP out of the fight. That's the only way out.
This feels bad, man. This happens so many times to me. Just Rumble has no hard CC, so you can TP in front of him if you want. Yeah, it's unlucky. But JDG pretty happy to walk away with the Soul plus mid inhib. All of that comeback was facilitated by a really, really cool hook coming through from Crisp. One could say it was Crisp, but
Boo.
yeah, FPX really did play that about as well as they could have. Really beautiful hook threaded through the minions, through the Mordekaiser as well, before Kanavi could even get the Lamster Spike down, and then yeah, it was beautiful kick as well. All good stuff.
It's a strange irony here that the hooks for Crisp, in those situations you'd most expect to be afraid of them, across walls and things, just haven't really been happening for FunPlus. But when it's a front-to-back team fight where you'd normally, think there's got to be someone in the way of pretty much every hook, that's the time they get the crucial catch onto the damage dealer of JDG.
I mean, the way that fight was even instigated was weird to me because you should never be missing an Ornn ult or a Leona ult onto a flashless target. Even if it is a Lee Sin, it's really easy to A, either just wait for his safeguard, or B, pick a different target entirely. And I think that just is JDG maybe getting a little bit antsy for picks. They're saying, look, we have a lead, let's close before they have a chance to pull it back with a miracle team fight. FPX, though, they maybe want to just wait for Doinby plus LWX to tick over to level 16 before they go for anything too crazy here. But it looks like JDG continuing to apply the pressure, not going to allow them any sort of decision-making of their own in this fight.
Here's the Forge God. It comes through again, trying to buy space, but this doesn't look great for JDG. It looks like they may have to give up multiple members. As the Kindred falls down, that is an inhibitor tower, and Doinby gets blown up as well. The chase is on. Lamau just about escapes. LWX gets blown up. Gimgoon onto the Nexus tower. 1 versus 4. What in the world? JDG, they're not just going to get the inhibitor. They don't even need the inhibitor. They've got super minions in the base. They threw everything at trying to tie this series up. And just like that, 32.5 minutes in, trying to go for the last kill, of course, for style points while the minions do the job of finishing off the Nexus. JDG equalize the series and take our world champions to game number 3.
And this is a prime example of why you shouldn't force group against an Aphelios with Runan's Hurricane. Just AoEing down that entire fight. Even if it looked precarious for JDG heading into it, the dive was a little bit questionable. The stopwatches were beautiful from FPX. They prolonged everything. They almost found the miracle angle back in, but the Aphelios damage was disgusting there from the carries of JDG. Just lock up people, knock them down. Really, really, really cool to watch, but yeah, let's be real. Looking at the Aphelios kill contribution, he had almost nothing until that final fight. Literally, he ended like 5-1-2, four of which, actually 5 of those total came from that final fight. He was doing nothing until he did everything. And that's, well, I guess all you can expect from a late game hyper carry.
Well, yeah, we noted he was on 0-0-0 for a large part of that, but biggest shout out ever to 705. Look at those damage numbers, outstripping everyone but LWX in the game. That Morkaiser from the level 1 kill. I mean, I'm not, at this point, was that level 1 the thing that allows 705 to really snowball the whole game?
I mean, the solo kill was beautiful as well. It came at a point where, as I mentioned, Aatrox does win out in a lot of these melee to melee matchups until level 7. That's where the sustain slash pseudo poke that he provides actually starts to get hampered by A, first recall's worth of items, and B, other top laners actually scaling into formidable forces. Let's just take a look at what happened to really set this game off in favor of JDG. Actually, no, I think FPX came out ahead of this, but they had rapidly blinking health bars. Like, actually, this was so close. And look, 8 auto attacks from Loken, all dealing like 10 damage each. Feels bad.
Well, you pointed out as well, when we got into very quick, very even fights like these previous ones have been, that we had all these sort of component parts trying to come together, the hooks trying to drag out of the Lambda Spite, but the triple knockup, I mean, we see what mass crowd control could do for FunPlus in the first game, but when it goes off on the Ornn as well, it's just a thing of beauty.
I mean, as well as that, you mentioned previously, this was the fight where it looked like FPX should win because A, they got the choke point with the beautiful ultimates, plus the fact that everything was committed onto the Blitzcrank, but the strength of this Mordekaiser just 1v9ing in the backline. Like, Ornn Mordekaiser is an intimidating frontline to get through when they're not fed, and when they are fed, they're A, tanking everything, and B, shredding through your health bars at the same time. That was the miracle hook from Crisp that actually almost turned the game in FPX's favor. Credit to him for actually landing a couple of these onto like 2 of the 5 targets that he could actually hit. But yeah, it wasn't enough. At this point, just look at this Aphelios damage. Wait for it.
I couldn't believe the game was over right there. I thought the JDG might have gone a bit too far in trying to push forward, but yeah, the damage of Loken just absolutely ridiculous towards the end. But I guess, as you sort of touched on slightly there, as we're going into game number 3, the one that will decide if JDG hold on to that unbeaten record, and what a way to do so if they took down the world champions on the way there. It silences all criticism of them of having an easy ride through the season so far, if they can put this third game away.
But will FPX continue their unwinning record is the thing. Honestly, heading into game 3, my main takeaway is A, will we see first pick Lee Sin again? And B, will I see Conqueror heel rumble in the mid lane again? Lingering sense of dread, if I'm honest. But hey, why not? Let's roll with it. End of the day, though, FPX, they do flourish on these teamfight-centric compositions. I don't like the Blitzcrank for Crisp. However beautiful his hooks were, it's not the engage-centric playmaker that he really does flourish on. He sets up for these big teamfight follow-ups from the rest of his team, and Blitzcrank doesn't do that. Blitzcrank finds picks. Blitzcrank runs disruption on the enemy. But Crisp was always the kind of guy to just set up for the rest of FPX. You need someone to build up that house of cards, especially if Gimgoon is unable to join these fights because A, he's behind, and B, he's like behind on Aatrox of all things.
You're right. It feels like much more of a pick, on over the other side of things, where for JDG, they had the potential to make those picks and stop those team fights from coming together, which works so well for FunPlus Phoenix. But guys, we need to go to a quick break because we've got game number 3 coming up, the decider between FunPlus Phoenix and JDG. I mean, I just can't believe we're at this point, but JDG have been playing amazingly. 705 on Substitute has had an incredible game. We'll find out what happens, and if we get to see the crisp of old in game number 3, we'll be back as soon as possible, so don't go anywhere, and we'll see you soon.